Hello everyone. My polytunnels are very important to me. This is one of three. This is the newest one, put up last year. I say I've got three. We're in northwest Cumbria here, and although this year most of the UK suffered with drought and extreme high temperatures, mostly in the high 30s and a couple of times into the 40s, here we were sort of around the mid 20s. We're in a kind of a funny location. We're on almost at the bottom of a valley. The river's just over there, and the wind, especially in the winter, can funnel up and down this valley and blow us to bits here. And because we've got the fells just over there, we're sort of protected, so we've got a kind of a unique weather system here, and it can be cold, and especially in the winter. And without these tunnels, growing through the winter would be difficult. Not impossible, just more difficult. And having these tunnels allows me to get plants going and started in the spring and throughout the year really, and to keep things moving and allow me to garden the way I want and to be able to produce and harvest what I want to be able to. Quite often through the winter you'd be stuck with just a couple of varieties of lettuce and things like a lot of brassicas, which is all well and good, but I like to grow more than that through the year if I can. I like to push the boundaries, and I also like to sow a lot of seeds and grow a lot of plants because I've got a big plot. As I say, I've got three tunnels, but unfortunately one's got to go. So this is my second tunnel, the main polytunnel. It's 28 foot by 18 foot, and it is, I suppose you could call it, my engine room. As you can see, I've got tons of plants here. They're waiting to be potted on or planted out or something, and I'm doing that all year round in here. I use the other tunnels as well for the same thing, but essentially all the hard work, all the main work gets done in here. So I couldn't really do without this now. Grow so much in here and do so many projects in here because I've got the undercover space, and that's key as well. Although I've got three tunnels, over winter I only ever aim to plant up two of them for the whole winter, simply because that gives me a third space to work in undercover, so that on those days when I come down and there's a howling gale outside, or it's persisting down, shall we say, it's heavy rain or something, I can come undercover and still get some work done on the plot. So that's good. That means two tunnels are growing something and I'm working in the third, so they're paying the way and I'm still able to carry on and do things. It's the little tunnel over there that's got to go, so we'll go and have a look in there and see why. So we're in my little polytunnel now. It's 10 foot wide, 20 foot long, and it's one of these cheap blowaways. This was put up in March 2015, so it's going on 7.5 years old, which for these tunnels is blooming brilliant, to be honest. The cover is mostly still in one piece, but the cracks are starting to show. There's a great big tear down there. And where the original doors were on these things, they always have these zip up doors. They always fail very quickly. You can see here, these blew apart and I had to roughly stitch them together to hold them up. And those stitches are now pulling that plastic apart. And there are holes all over it. It just literally bits of this plastic in between this webbing. If I zoom in quickly, you can see the little bits of plastic in between the webbing eventually start to fall out, and it gets everywhere. And I've had that on a previous tunnel. Like here, there's a great big long gash here. There's gashes in the corner. All these ventilation side panels, they've all had it. Most of them have been clipped up. I've used safety pins on them. Most of these are clipped up and have been for about 3 years now. You can see I've got cable ties on this one. So I've kept it going as long as I really possibly can. I could patch it up and get another year out of it, but no, I've had enough. It's done with, because all these wooden frames that hold the doors down this end, I've had it. So it's not very long, a good winter wind and this whole end will collapse. I'll just set the camera up and then I can show you a bit closer what I mean. So rot and the passage of time, the wind blowing, the action has broken all this. And if I just lift this door, you can see this whole thing is moving around. It's all snapped. Again, I could repair that, but all the timbers at the bottom, these are all broke and are coming apart. The whole thing has had its day, and I think for 7.5 years I think I'm fairly lucky. Some of these boards can be reused, but I was saying last year about that I needed to do something with this tunnel, either fully repair it, put a new cover on, make a choice, make a decision about what I was going to do with that. And I'm just about there now, and I'm going to be able to make an announcement about it over this next week, I'm hoping. But I think essentially this tunnel is done and had its day. The frame can be reused, and I've got a use lined up ready for that, but this whole thing's going to have to be removed and another tunnel put in its place, and that's where we're at currently with it. So whereas I was going to be planting this with crops for the winter, and that's why I've cleared this one bed, and once those French beans over there came out, you know, I'd have the 2 beds to plant in. So what I'm going to be doing this next week, along with clearing this up a little bit, need to dig some ground in the other tunnel, just another little bed in there for planting in for over the winter. And where those tomatoes are still in the other tunnel, when they come out, I can use that for planting, so I can get the continuation of crops, and then I can apply myself here fully once that back tunnel is finished off. So that little tunnel is 20 foot long, 10 foot wide, and these 2 beds, 4 foot wide each, 2 foot path in the middle, 10 foot wide. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that frame, fix it over the top. It's a little bit too long, it needs 2 or 3 foot cut off the end of it, which is you know, an hour's work just to fettle that up. And then I've got myself a nice walk-in brassica cage, which should be portable. I'll fix it on the top. These are dead level with each other here. I've done that in readiness to do something like this down the line. And also I always keep my raised beds level for watering. That's so important, then your water doesn't roll downhill and you get a dry and wet patch. So I'm glad I did all that, because now I can just fit this frame straight over the top, throw some butterfly netting over it, and I've got an instant walk-in brassica cage. And things like the tall things like sprouts and purple sprouting broccoli can all be grown in there without restricting their height and be protected from the butterflies. For me, that's a perfect solution, and a proper end and proper use of that tunnel itself. The cover's going to have to go in the bin. That's had its day, but there we go. That's what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to replace that tunnel, and so hopefully I'm going to be able to make an announcement about that within the next week or so, hopefully. There we go. Hope you enjoyed today's video. Look after yourselves, everyone. Please stay safe, and I'll see you all very, very soon. Ta-ra now.